and welcome to the channel. Today, we're going to be taking a look at my LEGO Universal Monsters collection. If you watch this channel, you may have seen one of my more popular videos where I make a LEGO Plague Doctor in this kind of LEGO style, which is a bit bigger than the normal LEGO minifigure. Well, I recently watched a few older Universal Monster movies and decided I wanted to make those in this scale. So, without further ado, I present to you the Universal Monsters in this scale. As there are 7 of these figures, I'm going to be going through them one by one, by release date, starting with Dracula.
I am Dracula.
Dracula was the first of the Universal Monsters. It came out in 1931, and Dracula was portrayed by Bela Lugosi. If we take a look at this, he has the haircut, like there, just the widow's peak. Right here, he just has his eyes, along with this part of his tie with his shirt. He has some buttons along his shirt, and his arms have these capes on them to portray the long cape that he wore in the film. There's one on each side. He's holding a candlestick, which can be removed, and that's just pretty simple right there. Other than that, he just has his legs and another cape down there, and on the back he has a collar. He's probably one of the more simple figures out of this Universal Monsters thing that I've made, but I do think he very much looks the part of Dracula. If we just look down, just like all the other ones, he's based off my Plague Doctor design and has a ton of posability, and he usually looks pretty good in the poses you can put him in. Universal's Frankenstein also came out in 1931, shortly after Dracula, with Boris Karloff playing the iconic role of the monster. He has this chain, which you can easily remove, around his arms. His arms are about a stud longer and a stud wider than the other arms on these figures. His head is also a fair bit taller, just like in the movie, and, he has the bolts in his neck, which are pretty iconic. He has just a normal jacket. His torso is probably the more simple out of all the figures. And if we look down, he has these really tall boots, which make him tower over all the other figures. Just to prove that, I will bring in Dracula, which I'll stand next to him. His head obviously makes him a fair bit taller, along with his boots down there. And they do look good side by side. Other than that, he's a pretty simple figure with just some detailing on the arms and legs with some grill plates and not much around the back, just like Dracula. These two films were followed shortly by The Mummy in 1932, who was also portrayed by Boris Karloff. If we take a look at this, he has the head with no bandages on it, along with the arms with the bandages all falling off, and the one arm kind of connected to the body. Now, in the original Mummy, Boris Karloff actually was not in the mummy makeup for long. He was a human for most of the film. So, I took that mummy and the mummy from The Mummy's Hand, which was not portrayed by Karloff, and I kind of mixed them. That's how I have this mummy right here. He walks with a limp, as you can see right there, which makes his figure tilt a bit, which I think looks pretty good. And on the back, you can see a bandage trailing off his foot. He has all the bandages just trailing down, and his arm is like that. He's probably one of the more complicated figures out of them, and I think he definitely fits the part of the mummy, especially if you've seen the film. The one thing I don't like about him is his bandages are a little too white, but there's not much I could do about that. On the back, it's also just like the other ones, nothing too special.
You're crazy to know who I am, aren't you? All right, I'll show you.
Moving on to 1933's The Invisible Man, with an unforgettable performance by Claude Rains. He has his glasses, along with his completely bandaged head. In his hand, he has something he's using for science, with a little glow-in-the-dark bit at the end. Below him, he has just a lab table made out of a Lego construction piece for the legs. If we look at his clothes, he just has a robe in the movie that he wears, which is checkered, so I just use grill pieces for the kind of checkered pattern on the robe, along with his undershirt, and hands, which just have some Lego plates on it. He's also pretty simple. He just has these parts for the robe down there, which complete the look, and I think he very well looks like the Invisible Man. Next, in 1935, came The Bride of Frankenstein with Elsa Lanchester as the monster. Boris Karloff also reprised his role as Frankenstein, and if you put the two next to each other, they look very good. She is the shortest of all of the figures, but her hair, if you count that, can also make her taller than a couple. Her hair has the iconic stripe and is, very long, very tall. She has just a normal face. On the side, she just has her arms. She has the long, flowing dress. Her back is probably the ugliest out of all the characters. But from the side and front, it looks pretty good. There's not much else to say about her. I used the same technique I did for the mummy, for the robes. And yeah, it's pretty simple, but I also had a fun time making it. Next up, in 1941, came the Wolf Man, portrayed by Lon Chaney Jr. If we take a look at him, he has very interesting legs with the torn right there. The way his legs are make him always stand on a hunchback, just like in the film. He has the claws for hands, which I also used on another figure, and his face is a little more different than some of the other figures because he has the nose and the hair all around it, along with the interesting hairstyle. He was a very big challenge to make, but I think he looks very good, and if you've seen the Wolfman, you probably know who he is. Just like the other ones, he looks terrible from the back, but can pose very well. The only thing I don't like is that I used a little bit weaker of things for his feet, so mine falls over a bit easier. But other than that, he's pretty good. Next up, in 1954, came Creature from the Black Lagoon, starring Rico Browning, if I said his name right, as the creature. He has the bigger eyes along with the fins on the side of the head. He has the claws that I used for Wolfman, along with grill plates for scales. He also has these fins on the two sides right here, along with the different body shape and some other scales down the middle, which are lighter in color. He uses these same pieces for the legs, along with some ski pieces for his feet. I really like this figure a lot. I think I did a very good job on him, and that he looks the part of the Gillman pretty well. All in all, I am very proud of all these figures. Thank you for sticking to the end of the video. Bye!